Hi there, welcome back to this series of record reviews. This is episode 13 with me, JVT. Let's get started. Sarasota, Florida. Another in the long line of towns, cities that have delivered with record stores. We were there about a month ago now, visiting some relatives down in the sun of Florida, on the Gulf Coast, on the west side of Florida there. And I discovered a record store called Vatican City Records. A small place, but had a really good quality selection, so we spent about an hour down there having a flick through. And I thought I'd go through and chat about the finds I had down in Florida. Now, first up, 10cc, a band I like a lot since I was a kid. Kevin Godley, Lol Cream. What have we got on here? Dreadlock Holiday, Rubber Bullets, I'm Not in Love. The Priceless Collection, 10cc from England. Great band. In really good nick too. What does it say here? Very good plus. There you go. No scratches, no scuffs or anything. 10cc, the Priceless Collection. This one, G.W. McLennan. Now, G.W. McLennan, the late great Grant McLennan from the great band the Go-Betweens from Brisbane in Australia. This was like a 4-track EP of his. Produced by Dave Dobbin of New Zealand's DD Smash. He had a big hit with Slice of Heaven from that Foot Rot Flats movie, but I know him from the great DD Smash band over the years. Grant McLennan though, great musician, the late great Grant McLennan passed away several years ago now. He and Robert Forster in that great band the Go-Betweens. Yeah, so this is a very good plus again, in really good nick. Yeah, I think it's well worth a listen. Grant McLennan, G.W. McLennan, When Word Gets Around. Now this one, I had to pick this one up. This was, this is a real rarity, I think. This looks like it was passed around to radio stations in the US, because the great hunters and collectors from Melbourne were about to tour the United States back in the 80s. Have recorded a song with all the passion and intensity of their live show. That song is back on the breadline. Through IRS. I think IRS distributor was the label for REM, that sort of stuff. The Great Hunters and Collectors from Melbourne. Flash in the Pan. Flash in the Pan consists of two guys, George Young and Harry Vander, who are in the Easy Beats, the huge band, Australian band from the 60s. Had lots of hits around the world. George Young's younger brothers, Angus and Malcolm, went on to big things with a band called AC/DC, of course. George and Harry produced most of those early classic AC/DC albums. This one's great. They had a couple of hits, Haste of Peter and Down Among the Dead Men. On this little beauty, Flash in the Pan. Harry Vander and George Young. Great Australian talent. Or slash Dutch slash Scottish. Band I've always loved from Sydney, Died Pretty. This is an EP of theirs, about 4 songs from the 80s, I think. We've talked about an album of theirs from 91 called Doughboy Hollow, which is an Australian classic. For some reason, these have found their way to Florida through some local distributor, and found their way into my collection now. So there you go. Died Pretty, Next to Nothing. Another one of the Died Pretty, just a single, I think, a 12-inch single. Out of the Unknown, World Without, Mirror Blues. Great band to see live, Died Pretty, out of Sydney. I think they're touring right now. Ron Pino, great frontman, Brett Myers on guitar. They sort of toured on and off, but I saw them great back in the early 90s, mid-90s, on the back of that Doughboy Hollow album, one of the great bands. First time I saw them, they supported the Smithereens. The Smithereens are a great band, but they died pretty blew them off the stage, which was amazing. At the Palace in Melbourne back then. Next record, a bit of rockabilly from England, the Shillelagh sisters. Gee, I hope I've pronounced that properly. This lady here is, her name is, well, at the time was Linda Halpin. Her name now is Lynn Borer. She's a record store owner and musician from London. Her and her husband Boz. Boz is a great rockabilly legend from the UK. He plays, for the last 25 years or so, he's played with Morrissey and written and collaborated with Morrissey, and is also Morrissey's band leader these days, pretty much. Yeah, Lynn on the double bass there with the Shillelagh sisters playing Give Me My Freedom. They had a really good version of These Boots Were Made for Walking as well. Some great rockabilly sound out of the UK in the 80s there. So there you go. Thought I had to pick that one up. Good on you, Lynn. See ya. And last but not least, the Eurogliders, who were they had a lot of hits in the 80s into the early 90s, I suppose, the Eurogliders. This one is an album called Absolutely. Different cover, this one. This is a American pressing. We Will Together. What else we got in here? Absolutely. Can't Wait to See You. That sort of stuff. So Bernie Lynch and Grace Knight. Grace Knight on the vocals. Great duo with their band, the Eurogliders. Absolutely. So that was a little booty from Vatican City Records in Sarasota, Florida. I thought that was pretty good. I'd like to go back to that record store because there was a stack more I could have picked up. What else we talk about? Podcasts. The Australian rules football season is about to start, the AFL in Australia. There's a great podcast done by a couple of Melbourne comedians, Adam Rosenbachs and Michael Chamberlain, called Junktime AFL. They just sit there and crap on about the footy and make fun, take the piss. And one's a Carlton supporter, Adam is, and Michael's a Hawthorn supporter, so... but we won't hold that against them. So that's well worth listening. Download that on iTunes. Footy podcast, Junktime AFL. Shows, we're going to see Heather Nova. Heather Nova was is a musician out of Bermuda. She had quite a lot of success in the 90s with an album called Oyster, which is a really good record. It's still played today. So we're going to see her in April. Jimmy Carr, the comedian from England, great comedian from England, we're going to see him in a week or two. Around at the Gramercy Theatre in our neighbourhood. Steely Dan out at Port Chester. We saw them out at Port Chester at the Capitol Theatre last year, and that was just sensational. Becker and Fagan, two of the legends of modern music. And in the summer we're going to see Coldplay out at the MetLife Stadium out in New Jersey there. So they get a bit of a bad rap, Coldplay, but I don't mind them at all, actually. So we'll go and have a look at that. And don't forget, April 16, Saturday, April 16 is Record Store Day all around the world. Get out and support your local independent record store. Even, I mean, you know, it's like Valentine's Day. It doesn't have to be Record Store Day to go out and support your local record store. So if you're walking past one, pop in. You never know what you'll find. You'll pick up some absolute gems and some new music too, you know. So yeah, all this stuff, apart from the hard to find stuff I just showed you, it's all available on iTunes or your local record store. So I'll be back soon with a few more recommendations on good stuff, good music, podcasts, etc. And I'll let you know how a couple of these shows went as well. I'll see you soon. Rock on. Bye.